Hello, sleep paralysis demons out there. Welcome to Nexus at Night, your weekly Vanguard podcast, brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Nexus at Night. I'm Atlas.
I'm Matt.
I'm Root here.
And I'm Tyfyghtr.
And Tyfyghtr is here with us today. Welcome. Welcome
Hey,
back.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I've been on this thing.
Yeah.
But it's good to be back.
Yeah, we're having him on here today because we're going to talk about a potential ban list for premium format and also how Bushiroad can look at dealing with problem cards in the future, because premium's pretty crazy.
Premium's pretty fucked right now, isn't it?
It's all over the place. Like
It is.
I've had simultaneously some of the most fun I've ever had playing Vanguard in premium recently. And also some of the worst times I've had playing a card game in general ever. And
Don't play
Vanguard
meta decks.
recently.
That's the secret, I think.
It really is. It really is.
It's like Vanguard's Gilded Age.
If
You're
you
like,
play like the top 6 decks,
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
not great.
It's really hard to convince people that premium is fun. Like, especially because we now have Overdress where everyone's just kind of turned their attention to it. You're like, yeah, but look at all these fun combos you can do, / I want to use my old cards. And they're like, Zazan still exists, and
Yeah.
Genesis
somehow.
can search it. So,
Yeah, there's a handful of decks that can search Zazan, and yeah, I don't know. I was actually streaming earlier today and was kind of just talking about Zazan and how the decks that can use Zazan have kind of changed themselves to fit Zazan in, and then the other decks are just kind of left behind in a way. It's not ideal, but whenever ban lists come up, I feel like all of us are going to be like, oh yeah, Zazan to 0, which it should have been in the first place. But whenever ban list talk comes up, people always point to Zazan and stuff. I'm like, I don't know, it just feels like a bad argument because Zazan shouldn't be allowed in the first place. So
yeah, I think, and this is kind of a more general thing, but when I look at premium, if you look at the best decks, you have loop decks, and you have decks that can stop the loop decks. And if you can't do one of these things, you are not participating in the metagame.
yeah, that's really how it is. I think that's why we've seen Anger Blader kind of pop up a few times.
Just try to
recently.
kill them before they...
Yeah, that's literally, and when I try to build decks recently to try and be something like a meta contender, really you're kind of just shoehorned into, can I make this deck fast enough to kill before my opponent gets to their grade 3 turn or their first stride? That's
exactly right.
really how it is, and that's kind of miserable to build around.
So basically the only quote competitive deck I have for premium available is really Tachikaze and just trying to kill them before it matters.
Yeah.
I own spikes in premium, but what does that matter, right?
Yeah. And and the thing is too is I will say you look at because really all we have is vision right now to really point to, and there have been some diverse tops, which is interesting, but I think my last video I did, I kind of said, yeah, sure, the meta's diverse, but is it good? Is it fun to play? And I don't think it is right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important aspect is diversity. It's weird because people want to think diversity means your format's good, but that's actually not how it turns out, because what people are really looking for when they say diversity is they're looking for a diversity of play. Which, while you have a bunch of kind of different decks, they're all kind of doing the same things, which is not as fun.
So true.
I mean, in the case of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the reason that the ban list itself was created was because they were sick of seeing tops where half of all of the top decks were the same. Everything had Pot of Greed, everything had, Raigeki, Heavy Storm, Delinquent Duo, all that sort of stuff. And they did that to encourage diversity of play. And I think that's what Bushiroad needs to kind of accept, because the way that Vanguard players look at cards getting hit on the ban list and the way that Konami looks at cards getting hit on the ban list is very different.
Mhm.
Because for Vanguard, there's almost this sort of like fear that once it goes on the ban list, that's it. The clan's dead, or
Yeah.
versus Konami, it's a thing where it's like, oh, my thing's dead.
Yeah.
Okay, it'll probably be back in a year and a half or so when the power creep catches up, or whatever. It's like Vanguard players almost lack object permanence, where they're like, it's gone. Oh no,
Yeah.
it's never coming back, guys. It could come back.
I mean, that's what happened with Anger Blader, right?
Yeah.
Anger Blader was to 1, and then they just unleashed it. Same with Shiryuki. Like,
Yeah, it was the that's one of my favorite memes I've ever made is photoshopping Anger Blader's face on Hannibal Lecter's body. Hello, Clarice.
But we're never gonna get Riv back because they eroded it.
Yeah, I really hate that errata, honestly.
Oh yeah, that's another
Errata
thing.
it back. Clearly, that's the solution.
Yeah, like Bushiroad is also more okay with doing unorthodox hits instead of just
Yeah.
to 2 to 1 to 0. It'll be erratas or choice restrictions.
yeah, they've
They do
definitely
errata
kind of tried to
very
do
much.
that.
They do choice restrictions, though.
Yeah, although their last big choice restriction, I think, was just a huge mistake in general in restricting Luard in the main, because the main and Luard wasn't the issue. The issue was the fact that you could superior ride, and then they also screwed over a ton of card shops in Japan that just bought a ton of Nemains at a higher price that they could no longer sell. That
Right.
one is one of the worst ones, I think. That was just a mess all around.
That actually killed like a lot of like faith in the like. I say faith, but what I really mean is like reliability, safety, credibility. Yeah, it killed a lot of
Yeah.
like credibility of the game too. Just like having this emergency bans are like something you have to be really careful about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Yu-Gi-Oh has had some, but like very rarely. Usually they have like stated ban lists, but like sometimes they just have to do something like Pepe is a great example of that, right?
Yeah.
I feel
And
like
that
they've only
wasn't
done that,
enough.
what, like 2-3 times emergency bans in Yu-Gi-Oh?
I think it's like yeah, it's a very small number, and like the other times were like one card. They would like limit a card on release basically,
Yeah.
and everyone's
Feels
like,
like
okay,
he only does like emergency ban lists for like game destroying formats.
yeah. I think Pepe is the only one where they went like actually ham,
Makes sense.
and then again that was not enough to kill that deck.
That is part of the problem with Bushiroad's ban list is that a lot of the times they'll just release them like right after a major tournament.
Yeah. It's very reactionary.
Yeah, like there's no schedule to it. It just kind of they seem to come up, I guess, when they feel like it.
Yeah.
Versus Konami has its set thing. Like at least for a while, it would be like you get one in June, you get one in what, like March, or something. No, wait, sorry, it's March and September. I think, because they would be 6 months apart
No,
from
it's
each other.
March, July.
March, July.
Yeah, because the next one's July.
Oh, okay.
Or they said no sooner than July 1st.
Okay, so, but that's still like roughly about 5-6 months for each format, and sometimes like a format will have barely any changes, and that's okay, because another one is coming in about 6 months.
Yeah.
Whereas Bushiroad is like, okay, there's one coming out in 2 weeks. You're like, oh shit, something's happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
Get
I
ready.
think like for the case of Yu-Gi-Oh, the problem of like every deck kind of just like ending games with like access code or whatever is like kind of lame. But like I think the real problem with Yu-Gi-Oh is like a price point actually, that like almost necessary cards like $100,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
referring to things like Forbidden Droplet, Lightning Storm, just to name a few. Like IDPs even like $60.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thankfully, premium's not quite that bad. Although the
No, no.
secondary market is still, like when you like my issue is like when you see common cards shoot up to like $10 and $20. Like
Cough,
I
cough,
think,
Cursed Eye Raven.
yeah, Cursed Eye Raven, Monochrome of Nightmare Land. I remember being specifically like $20 at one point.
That's common,
Um,
right?
Yeah, yep, just a common. And I remember I was looking at stuff today, and the like very first Shirayuki stride, the triple rare from Fighters Collection, somebody had it listed for $60. And
It's the market price. That card's $10.
yeah,
Jesus.
it's ridiculous. So like there's one listed for the like the Shiryuki's listed like one for like 10 or 12 or something, and then it very quickly goes to like 20, 30, and then 60. And I'm just like there's something going on weird right there too. And I think it also kind of comes in like V too, because Bushiroad's shown like a very like big reluctance to reprint VRs for some reason. Especially in English, right? Because they reprinted Alfred and Phantom Blaster and Start decks, but those were only in Japan. They never brought those over to English. So I don't know what the hesitancy has been. I guess they want sets to keep value, but I think that's kind of artificially inflated in some cases because, like, you know, the game's growing and there's more people wanting to get into it and stuff. So
That's a Western thing in general. Like both in Vanguard and Yu-Gi-Oh, I've observed that being a thing. Like, there's a whole running gag right now where there's a structure deck coming out, and they're announcing that Lightning Storm and Infinite Impermanence, two pretty expensive cards, are getting reprinted in it. And all the jokes on Twitter are people going like, "Oh, it's probably going to be Effect Veiler and Dark Hole or something."
No, we're gonna get Dark Bribe and Lightning Vortex.
There you go. But yeah, just like shit like that where they kind of kneecap the reprinting just to keep value for the old cards. And for secondary market stuff, Bushiroad, or, you know, insert card company here, doesn't directly profit from the secondary market. So why even do that?
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's, you know, I to like play devil's advocate and try and see like a positive to it. I feel like it might be that they're trying to like help, you know, card shops kind of like keep value to their stock so that they can, you know, make a profit. But the thing is how many card shops do you go to that sell Vanguard singles? Because the only ones around me that used to don't anymore, and they haven't for a very long time, just because it's so hard to, you know. So, I mean, maybe the TCG player stores, but even then, some of these TCG player stores are really jacking these prices up to a like an almost predatory degree, I would say.
Yeah. It is rather unfortunate, but like I feel like there have been multiple instances of vendors being pretty shitty.
Yeah.
Although can't really remember any off the top of my head right now.
I remember there was like that like Crayon Tiger got bought out, right? And somebody listed it for like $100 some or something, right? And my thing is, you know, if they're the ones with the product, they're the only ones with it. You know, it is kind of, you know, the ball's in their court to set the price at whatever. But it also doesn't mean people are going to buy it, you know?
Yeah, but it also doesn't mean like the problem is that the major problem is that supply is very low and demand is very high.
Yeah.
And I was watching Farfo stream, I think, the other day, and he Yu-Gi-Oh has the same problem basically, right? It's like people are opening less product because of COVID, because, you know, people don't need to buy physical cards. And it's like, thinking about it is like, man, if only there was some way to have effectively unlimited product while still letting people play the game.
Yeah, but how could we ever do that?
If only.
If only.
It's just like wild that, you know, just nah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of issues with and honestly I think it's kind of like, you know, I feel like Vanguard's one of the few games to, you know, not be a part of the big three and last as long as it has. You know, it's kind of a miracle that it has.
Yeah.
I'm glad it has, but you know, I feel like they're kind of getting into some growing pain areas where they may not have expected to get to. And they are kind of getting to a point where, hey, you need to figure this out. You need to figure it out soon, please. You know?
So it's that meme with Plankton where he's like, I don't know, I didn't think I'd get this far.
So a lot of games don't get to the point where they realize that set rotation is unsustainable Like, it's a miracle that Yu-Gi-Oh has gone on this long without having to resort to some kind of like actual set rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they just kind of have they chose to have like a very extensive ban list, which is, fine, I
That's one way to
suppose.
do it.
I don't hate it.
I mean, you just get random cards like Smoke Grenade that come back to cause problems later.
Yeah.
You have to deal with that.
But they get dealt with in a timely manner, at least,
Sometimes.
Yeah. I think if Vanguard were to have like what Yu-Gi-Oh has, where it's like at a set time every year there's a ban list coming, I think that would help a lot too, because then like, oh, this deck, like, because we have a couple in premium right now that are like, wow, this deck is really, really toxic. Then you can kind of go, I probably don't want to hang on to this because I know that it's going to lose value the next time a ban list comes around. And it can kind of, I feel like kind of take out some of the feel bad moments when all of a sudden, oh no, my deck is banned and it's worthless and I spent all this money on it and stuff like that.
Oh, that's another thing that I noticed that Vanguard players freak out more than other TCGs. Like for Pokemon and Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, like people's decks getting hit and then losing value, that's just kind of, the way the cookie crumbles. And for Vanguard, it's like mind melting. They're like, I wasted all this money. I'm like, guys, it's a hobby. Hobbies cost money. It's going to happen
thing is,
sometimes.
A lot of times you're spending that money. I feel like ideally you're spending that money to go and play in a tournament, and you're spending that money to do well in said tournament. And if you spent that money and did well in said tournament, did you waste your money? I don't really think so. Your money did what it was supposed to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if it didn't, well, then maybe you needed to practice more or something. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
No.
And like,
they had to triple crit. Get more skill.
Right. What reselling does, it basically cuts the cost of playing the games. And like, if I like people who play like a lot of competitive like Yu-Gi-Oh will basically like sell out of decks like the second they play an event, basically, if they know something's coming up, right? Because they're like, all right, time to get out of this shit.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, right? You can go in, spend the money, get your tournament results or not, and then get out.
Yeah, but if you want to commit to a deck, right? Like if you, let's say somebody really likes, Madolche, right, which is just a really actually value one to just buy out, of just to have.
Right.
You're basically saying I'm gonna just like I just paid this money and I'm not gonna get it back, and that's fine because I like this deck, and that's fine to be that way. It's just like people just think like they always have to kind of like be ahead somehow of things that they're never actually gonna sell.
Yeah. I wonder how many of these Vanguard players too are the type to complain about their decks losing value that also never expected or intended to sell their decks in the first place.
Right.
I feel like there's probably a section of the player base that could be like that.
Well, because there's like the clan loyalty angle. Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't really have that for the most part. Like, you don't really see a lot, because like a lot of decks are just like this engine combined with that engine combined with these decks. So if your deck dies, usually it's I'm going to take the engine and keep it over here for when something else comes along.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what makes that easier to take than Nubatamas are now dead. You're like, fuck.
I do think that's a big thing in Vanguard, because there really is that like, kind of clan identity, clan loyalty that people have. And I'm kind of one of those. Like I'm a straight up cardboard hoarder when it comes to Novas. Like I still have,
Same with Great Nature,
and I guess
to
Dimension Police too. Like I still have decks from like Asia circuit, from like season 1 that I've never taken apart or sold. And I remember last year, a friend of mine was really trying to get like my old Blau deck. And I was like, nah, I don't know if I want to trade Blaus, because I feel like they're going to get support at some point. And, sure enough, they did. And I was really glad that I didn't sell or trade him that Blau stuff. And I think that's kind of like a aspect of it too, is that, at some point you're probably going to get support. It may not be good, but that at a certain point they're going to throw something your way.
It's like temporarily embarrassed deck builders instead of millionaires.
Yeah, it's but like you look like V Series, right? And V Series is actually like kind of fun right now, minus some weird things, but like it's like pretty good. But like Nubas has been mostly irrelevant the entirety of V.
Yeah.
And that feels bad for people who like Nubatama. All like 12 of them or whatever. Liking Rene is not liking Nubatama. Rene is liking card.
I feel the same way about Jamio Congo. So
I really liked that second Jamio Kondo. That was very cool.
right.
Rene's
Yeah.
this card I've ever experienced.
Yeah, but honestly, the thing with Rene is I would gladly take Rene to the face now over some of the things we have in the form.
For sure.
Rene looks so tame by comparison.
Dude, how do they just not put once per turn on cards that should definitely have once per turn? It's honestly
Right.
Who knew? Why did they think unbanning Taro was a good idea?
Dude,
Oh.
wasn't a good idea before. Still not a good idea. Weird. Who could have ever have seen this coming?
That's something that Konami did with later card effects to kind of curb the need for such extensive bans. Every single ban list was hard once per turns on everything. And if it's not, it's like a big freaking deal. I think
Like,
eventually...
what's something that's played that's like not a hard once per turn, like Chalk and I?
I'm trying to
That's
think.
like the only thing I can think of that's like.
Or just any decks that are like where older cards are relevant, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
You know? So just any older card that you can use extensively is there for, like, Fossil
But
Jade.
like all the Shadal monsters are like hard once per turn.
Yeah. And that deck's good.
But those cards are very old.
Yeah. Yeah, flip effects. You know how it is.
In 2020, 2021, dude.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's something where I think eventually Bushiroad, if they want to future-proof themselves, they're going to have to start putting hard once per turns on stuff.
Yeah. Ideally. It kind of just it solves a lot of like headaches that they could experience down the line. Right?
Yeah. I went ahead and on our Twitter at Nexus at Nights, I asked I said, for premium format, what sort of stuff needs a hit to make it playable for you, in your personal opinion? So I kind of want to see what the community says before we get into our personal ban lists. We have at the Chaz Monroe says Fenrir Loop, Pale Moon Loop, DI needs something done. I play it, so I know how fucked up it is, LOL. Get rid of Jamio Congo. That card makes matches unplayable. Anything that speeds up Striding 2 needs to be checked out. Not saying ban it all, but feels massively unfair if you're going second. Let's see. At Shy3K says, all loops and infinite stuff that kills or cripples on first grade 3 ride or first stride, and Hoam. Hoam is the one that makes you attack Vanguard no matter what, right?
Yep.
Giant pain in the ass. If the game just becomes standard plus the vanilla engine after all that, which it probably would, I think just banning all Cry Elementals.
Yeah, I've heard that one a few times now.
Well, Tempest Sphere is also kind of annoying, but it requires damage.
Mm-hmm. It can be played around.
Yeah, I guess Tempest Sphere is like better than Zazan.
But that's an order, not a...
Vanilla's is much worse when you don't have Zazan.
Yeah. It seems like just make it so everything, like just ban Cry Elementals in the main deck. And I guess that kills Bobo, which was kind of a neat card, but...
Yeah, Bobo I feel like is like the balanced Hwam, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Because you have to be at GB1 for it to activate. You can't just like sit there and slap it down and force your opponent to attack you, you know? And even then, you still only get 1 damage, but...
Mm-hmm. Well, technically 2, because it's a counter charge also.
Well, if you have one. But a lot of times
you
play it when you're at 0 damage.
Oh, right, because it's if you have 3 or less damage, you do the thing? Yeah. And then at ZR Gaming, Quad Zero says Hoam and Bobo to 0, removes damage denial. Zazan to 0, counterblastless.
Sounds good.
Yeah, counterblastless GB / Cyclone Enabler. Nue, Gasteel, Grade 4, Taro, and Calico to 0. Absurdly strong Grade 3 / First Stride kill turns. Choice restrict the V series of Dragonic Overlord the X and the Legion Dragonic Overlord the X. So, I mean, isn't that already kind of how it is because it's the name?
Yeah, that one doesn't.
I think it means because I think some people have like played a 2-2 split or like a 3-1 split before.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't have too many Overlord players in like where I play at, and so I have like a very narrow vision of the last year of meta, other than what I see in tournament tops because of that. So I don't know what that would accomplish necessarily. I feel like you just want to go one or the other anyway.
I think a good start is banning Genesis, just the whole thing.
Yeah, it says, well, there's the last part here. Errata Valkyrian / the Vision token to only perform drive checks on their first battle.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does.
That
makes more sense than what I would have done, so or wrote down even. That's better.
That one's actually clever.
Yeah.
Someone in my stream chat today said something along the lines of that cards that drive check cannot be chosen as targets for stand triggers, which I feel like is a less elegant solution than that is. But
I would just ban Taro, honestly.
Yeah, ban Taro or put her to 1 just so that loop isn't doable.
I think I like what. I think I like that comment about like they can only do drive checks on their first attack.
Mm-hmm.
That errata is good, and like basically the banning of Taro, and then that also fixes like Blade Master shit, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like
and like
that
any
does
future cards that can drive check on rear.
I kind of do think Huang needs to go and Zazan needs to go.
Yeah, definitely
Agreed.
those two.
You know Zazan needs to go because the community had a goddamn hashtag just for a single card out of a single game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you do hashtag Z, Zazan to 0 will start popping up once you start ZA. Up there it is.
Also, Gastille grade 4, right?
Yeah,
Get rid of that.
I think
Or
anything...
monochrome, honestly.
I feel like Gastille, I was talking about this today too. I feel like Gastille, the grade 4, needs to go just because, like, sure, they can like choice restrict it with the new G3 Gastille or whatever, but it's only a matter of time before another card gets introduced into Dark States or Dark Irregulars.
Correct.
That's going to bust G4 Gastille wide open all over again. And that card is just so not future-proofed, right? Like, it's always going to be broken. People are always going to find a way to do it.
I think what's really key is cards that copy effects are very likely to be really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And if you look at like Yu-Gi-Oh's ban list, they banned basically all of these.
Yeah. I also think that there might be an argument for just the regular G3 Gastille as well, just because I feel like in V, G3 Gastille is fine, right? Because like you're only going to get to like maybe 10, 15 cards into your soul on your like first grade 3 turn, but in premium you can turbo your soul so hard that it's like first grade 3 ride, you have 20 soul and then you just win. You know, so but yeah, I would, if anything, like definitely ban G4 Gastille. That card's needed to go for a while. And then I feel like
last time.
Yeah, and then like, you know, get rid of it, and then in like, you know, the next premium collection or whatever, give DI something different, you know, something to kind of fill the void. Or ideally the ban list will kind of take down everything else a notch as well, so that, you know, DI isn't reeling from losing this stride that has basically been their game plan since 2019. You know,
Grand Blue needs to be hit.
Which one?
Grand Blue.
I don't know, because like looking at Grand Blue list recently, they're all running like vanilla stuff, right? So it's like, if we hit Zazan, is Grand Blue still an issue? You know, is Grand Blue still going to be like as good? I don't know. You know, I think they would. What I would like to see Bushiroad do if they do a ban list is to like definitely hit what's on top right now, but also like just a bit below the surface, because like just below the top is like a pool of sharks waiting to just jump up into that void.
So you're referring to things like Harry and and Grand Blue and all that shit.
And so if you hit the top, hit a few things below the surface, and then like, you know, put certain decks on a watch list, like let people know that you're like, okay, we're not sure if we need to do anything about this. We're gonna wait and see how the meta kind of develops, and then if we see something's a problem, we're gonna step in and take care of the problem. You know,
which
I think that would go
they
along
did in the past, and then they just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Which seems to be the story of Bushiroad a lot of the time, is they had this good idea one time, and then they just kind of stopped doing it.
Mm-hmm.
We were gonna do the right thing, but we forgot. there's like so many ways you can go about fixing it and kind of like setting up the infrastructure for dealing with it in the future. In the case of everything pre-overdress, because every card is now a support card for premium, your yearly premium collection set, or whatever you want to call it, has to be extremely deliberate. You get one shot once a year. And I think that they are going to have to really play. Like, you might be the type of thing where it's like, okay, we have our, however far in the future you have overdressed planned for, you need to be like, okay, we now know what we're going to have to release in that premium collection in June, and it's like September right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, figure your shit out before, because some of this stuff where they'll release something, I'm like, you guys made that up on like the way to the meeting, like.
Right. Well, and the thing is too is like we're also gonna be getting V collections, right? And I kind of joke that like the V collections are just premium support in disguise. They're premium collections in disguise, right?
Yeah.
Which kind of is like the G3 Gastille. That was a clan selection card that has like completely busted open DI. And like you see, I was looking at the Vision tops just this past weekend. There was a DI deck that topped, but it was Sharkrot. And I think the only reason we don't see Gastille in this top 8 is because for whatever reason, people decided not to play it, right? I think the last 2 premium tops they had, there was no Gastille on top just because nobody played it, right? So I feel like the community might also be kind of like, this isn't good. What are we really doing here? Do we really want to subject people to this? At least still have people playing Hyuga, so maybe that doesn't hold as much weight as I'm giving it.
So people are not playing something even though it's the best choice out of like consideration for their fellow Vanguard player.
That's the only thing I can imagine, because
like...
why else would you not be playing it?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like people who play people like the fun games you people have are premium. They're just not playing the decks that are like dumb, right?
Good, yeah. Well, because you brought this up in what was it, your last video or the video before that, Ty, where it was like you can have your own like kind of custom made ban list. Like maybe your locals just goes, you know what, no Gastille Stride in here.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Vision should try to make a ban list and see what happens.
Oh, like like a Smodon type thing.
Yeah, like
that would be pretty interesting, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
What do they have to like? If it's not only going to help us inform of what what cards maybe we miss, but also generate just better games of premium
and conversation, which is important, I think.
Yeah, like the premium event for Vision last week barely fired, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Because even if if Vision starts releasing their own ban lists in parallel to Bushiroad, it will have conversation, but it's also harder to explain to people about how it works. So it's like, I want to get into premium. How does it work? Well, in premium, what you're going to want to do is in Vision has their own ban list, but then Bushiroad has their other ban list, and you got to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
you just come off like you're autistic. You're like...
I feel like a better time, because ideally, Bushiroad's going to put out a ban list either during or post Springfest, right? That's because then it's like, oh, we've run our own official tournament, we've seen results in our tournament, so we know that this is an issue. Whether that's good or bad, I don't really know. I feel like you can kind of look to your own community for advice potentially, but I feel like if there was a time for Vision to do a ban list, it was this whole past year, right? But I mean, that's just kind of hindsight, because we haven't gotten much of anything in the way of ban list talk or tournament support in general for premium from Bushiroad. So I feel like if they were to do it, probably would have been better to do it 4 or 6 months ago. But now I feel like maybe just wait and see what Bushiroad does, and then kind of go from there, maybe.
No time like the present, I guess. I mean, for
right.
for Bushiroad's case, in terms of they're not putting out ban list stuff until they get their own tournament results. I can definitely see that being like a data problem if they were just to try and get it from the community, because like Twitter bots exist and people being pissed off inordinately for a small problem exists.
Yeah,
it's hard to get like good data outside of just tournament results and seeing.
Although hasn't Vision's been streaming the last few tournaments, I feel like, for a bit. So
yeah,
maybe
that's
that holds a
something
little
you
more
can
weight
go
too.
off of. Yeah. But I more mean like someone being like, Nubatama's broken. Ban the thing that I don't like because I lost to it from my friend. Like,
yeah. But I feel like Vision is at least, you know, pretty something consistent to look at, because they hold these tournaments regularly, and you can definitely, you know, form patterns just by looking at what's been topping over the last 4 or 6 months, you know.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that is nice would be nice about a large event is that you know that people are going to be playing the best deck, so that like basically like you're more likely to see the decks that are good.
You're going to see gas steal and not someone being like, for the consideration
you have to
of
play
others.
more rounds, right?
Yeah.
So the decks that are better are going to end up like winning a higher percentage of games.
Yeah, and that I will say that's like definitely something that's kind of against Vision right now, is their sample size has been very, very small, right?
Yeah,
like
because the event's like what, 20-something people?
Yeah, the last one has been like 20-something, and I think like at their peak they had like 40, 60 maybe around that ballpark, you know.
Which would be a good number.
Yeah, but it's been kind of shrinking just because, you know, people are busy and, you know, things are kind of somewhat going back to normal in some places, so we probably don't have as many people committing to time for these types of things.
If Bushiroad is doing their Spring Fest online, which at the time of this episode coming out yesterday, they released like their instructional thing with different fight like in the video. So congrats to him.
Yeah, I saw he was streaming very, very early this morning for me. It was like, hey, that guy in that video looks familiar.
Well, I mean, it says it in the title too. It's like featuring different fight. You're like, oh hi. I feel like that would have just been better if they just didn't acknowledge it. They're like, holy shit, that's different fight. But we you know, we've talked about this like a hell of a lot. But get like a good online platform for your stuff, Bushiroad. By you.
It is.
Zero doesn't really count. Zero is like an alternative format.
And like, because otherwise you end up with the really like awkward, strict rules that they have to have here, where like your hands have to be on screen the entire time.
Yeah.
In my defense, the people I know who still play Zero are enjoying it a lot.
It's fine. It's mostly like my lunch break at work, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she's playing Kagura, so.
I've had my Twitch chat's been trying to get me to pick up Zero again, and Chris is also like, it's good, man, like you should get into it, Legion's coming. I'm like, yeah, I just don't like gacha games though.
Wait, our Chris?
Too many gacha games.
Oh no, Chris, different fight.
Oh, that Chris.
Yeah, that Chris.
Yeah, it does look like, again, I know people have been enjoying it quite a bit, but I really just want like an online Vanguard thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
some sort of simulator,
Vanguard.
Which is going to be great for, you know, because I feel like Vanguard as a game already kind of has a bit of a cheating problem, but like that's a topic,
man,
for a whole other can of worms.
Unfortunate high-profile incidents for tournaments.
And so I feel like having like an online client would be good, especially going into something where we're doing this remote fight thing. Like, there's gonna be cheating, unfortunately, right? Like, and the worst thing about it is that the ways people cheat in Vanguard, it's really hard to prove sometimes. You know.
And another problem is like judges not knowing the rulings themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, that's been a thing before. If you go back to our like early episodes, we've had stuff from like back in college, where we were like go to tournaments and a judge would be like, "Yeah, this is the ruling." We're like, "No, it's not."
Like,
Yeah.
and people don't even cheat by like actually like manipulating the game or having like extra information. People will cheat with like time rules.
Mm-hmm.
Like people like basically like just like not do anything and like stall out time, and the judges are like, well, not enforcing slow play, which is
Yeah.
an issue in every game.
Yeah.
Like, Yu-Gi-Oh has very bizarre rules on slow play. Uh,
And didn't they like change their time rules to be like completely awful?
I'm not sure. I
Yu-Gi-Oh's
just remember
case?
back in the day, it used to be 30 seconds per like thing.
I
It
think
was really weird.
I think it's now like the first change in life points or something.
No. Oh, you mean like at time in the round? No, I
Yeah.
mean like as far as like actions in game. Like
Yeah,
what is considered slow play during the round?
gotcha.
That is the more important question than
And,
what happens on the round.
and the worst thing
Yeah.
is like for Yu-Gi-Oh is that you could have a combo that legitimately takes 5 minutes to play out. So
Yeah.
as long as you're like technically doing something, your
talking
opponent
about
can't
prank
really
kids?
call you on it.
Or whatever.
Or any deck actually.
See, now what I'm concerned about for cheating is people banging on trash cans to denote whether it's going to be a curveball or a fastball. Wrong game. Damn it.
I
Like
don't know if
the one listener who likes Vanguard and is also a baseball fan. Like,
Right. I understood that reference.
yeah.
Yeah, like there have been like several like Vanguard players, obviously, in that vein. But like, yeah, cheating is a huge issue. And online
Yes.
client, obviously, they cannot do that, right?
Yeah. It's like I don't know if you guys saw the I think WCC a while back did a Vanguard in 2020 video, and it was just like a bunch of like skits and gags. But the ones that really stuck out to me, especially like going for a remote fight tournament, is the guy sitting there at the computer and he's like, "Wait, 7 damage? No, I don't have 7 damage. It's 3. I have 3 damage." And then like kind of like using the glare to be like, "All right, drive check. That's it is like 2 normally. It's just like, that's 2 crits." 2 crits.
Oh my god.
So like I feel like it's funny, but I feel like we're gonna have people like try and get fast ones over like that,
Yeah.
right?
Or hell, like
the worst among us are gonna try that.
well, especially like depending on the time of day that you're doing your thing. Maybe it's like that. You have glare coming in your window because it's it's 7 in the morning or whatever.
The people who cheat at Vanguard have to be like the saddest people on the planet.
Yes.
What are you cheating for, honestly?
Yeah, like in the case of like Magic or whatever, there's like cash prizes at the end of that rainbow. Vanguard.
You maybe have a trip to
Mind-boggling.
Japan at like some part of the year. Otherwise, it's a piece of paper. Like,
It's
come on,
absolutely
guys.
mind-boggling, and you might not even win anyway because Vanguard.
Yep.
But like, Jesus.
You
And
might
it's
not
like-
even win anyway because Vanguard. I need that on my tombstone.
Look, sometimes you can do everything right and still lose.
Yep.
Yeah. I love getting double crit.
All right.
It's just card games.
So I thought we'd close this episode out by I asked everybody to bring like their own custom ban list. It can be as ridiculous as you want, like or as petty as you want, but just let's say you're the guy in charge of your card shop tournament, and you're like, all right, everybody in here, this is the ban list in these here parts. So
Right.
anybody want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first
All right.
because I've already alluded to mine. Banning Taro, banning Huang, banning Zazan, banning Castile, grade 4, the broken one. I don't know if they did another one. Banning on honestly, my original list was like banning stand trigger.
Same, actually.
It can be
Yeah, I
as
was
stupid
just
as you
like-
want. Go for it.
All right, so I'm just gonna go with that because you guys understand what I mean. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like they obviously didn't design newer cards with stand triggers in mind, so
Yeah.
there's just always
'Cause they
going to
weren't
be
in standard.
something. Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
always going to be something that ends up making them by accident.
So yeah, just ban stand triggers, which fixes a lot of problems by itself. Actually, I think Bobo is fine. Actually,
Yeah, I agree.
Basically banning the craze from Premium Collection 2. I don't know how I feel about Temposphere. That one would be on my watch list.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Random that stupid Murakumo stride would be on my watch list as well. But I know that's the thing that makes Murakumo playable. I understand that Murakumo is garbage without it. Like, but
You know-
without Huang, well, are they playing it? I don't even know. But like, it's just like I want decisions to matter, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know. That was kind of my start. So maybe banning Huang makes it like palatable. I wouldn't know, but that would be something I'd be willing to explore. But I would definitely be watching out for it, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you had, like Pale Moon or any of that nonsense, or if like you need to, or you probably do, honestly. But like I don't know what you would touch, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Grand Blue is also kind of like not sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody want to go next?
See, that's the thing is, I'm trying to. My list would have been very similar to Matt's, so I'm trying to think of if there were like any other things I missed.
That's
I'm
how I
certain-
was earlier too.
I'm certain there's something I missed.
I know the Royal Paladin stride also copies abilities, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. But that one's like whatever, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing is like as more D series stuff comes out, like that could become a problem.
Well, you could always like cross that bridge when you come to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that does enough compared to the Twin Blade stride right now, so like I might just ban that one as like a preemptive measure. I wish I could remember which one of the dozen fucking divine dragons I'm looking for.
Oh, the Royal Paladin one that copies
Yeah.
abilities. Crystal Luster.
Thank you.
Yeah. I play Royal Paladins occasionally.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and
That's cringe, bro.
Yeah, I go pretty basic now and again. I
copying
sat up
ability.
the table. I'm like, Boku no Bunshin Blast
Yeah. And like
So,
copying
you know.
ability for this one is not not the GB restricted skill, so I might
Yeah.
ban that one as a preemptive measure if we're
Interesting.
also taking out Gastile.
Well,
Because
because
you never know.
Gastile copies two things. I think that's what makes it weird versus the
Yeah.
Royal Paladin / Shadow Paladin stride just is whatever is under it.
I
Yeah.
think what's
Yeah.
important about Castile, and that's different than like any of the Shadow Paladin or the Royal Paladin copier, or even like Rising, right? Is that it copies choices from your deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I
Not
was
only
thinking.
soul charges, but also you get to search your deck for those choices. The
You get to
Royal
choose
Paladin,
any
the
two.
Shadow Paladin ones are what's on your Vanguard circle.
Mm-hmm.
The Rising Nova, you literally have to have them on rearguard and be on grade 3 and not striding.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those cards are more fine because they require more of you to copy those abilities.
Yeah.
Or copy less abilities. Castile, on the other hand, does neither of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So you
He just
can't like
toolboxes you everything you need.
right. You can't miss with Castile, right?
Unless you draw the things you were looking for, but even then you probably have multiple copies.
But you're probably playing 4
Yeah.
of them,
Yeah.
or 3 of them at least, and you're very unlikely to draw 3.
Ty, did you want to go?
Sure, yeah. So I went maybe a bit more extensive than I should have, but
Fair.
Nothing wrong
I-
with that. Petty away.
yeah, see, but the reason why is because I've been thinking about this for like a really long time now, right? So for outright bans, obviously, Gastile, Diamondus, Zazan, Huam, those have to go. Like Matt said, I think Bobo's fine. Personally, I would like a ban list to kind of get us to a point where we don't have to play such a hard damage denial game. If we can get to a point where we don't have decks that can just 0 to 6 you with one counterblast, I think that's kind of what I would want my goal to be, right? I also want to ban Jamio just because I hate Jamio. I hate that card. Although I also put ban Nue Dio, but with an asterisk, because I feel like we could also just choice restrict Nue Dio with like either Hyaki Vogue or even Shirayuki or both, just because somebody brought it up to me that like, Nue Dio can be fine. It's just the fact that you have things like Hyaki that just give your whole field a huge buff, and you just beat down your opponent with these giant columns that they can't do anything about, and they have this huge guard restrict on Nue Dio, right?
And losing Kwang's going to hurt them too because they need they need damage to be able to Nue Dio you.
Yeah. I also have choice restricting infinite loot pieces. I don't know all the infinite loot pieces that are in the Songster loot deck, but I do know them for the Murakumo one, because I feel like if we start like knocking down what's at the top, the infinite loops that we have are just going to get better by kind of like proxy, I guess.
Wait, do they even play the Murakumo loop?
I've played they don't play the Murakumo loop right now, but I feel like if we knock things,
because I remember before playing it was like kind of bad. Like the Tanba one, right?
Yeah, so the one where you get Tanba, you get dual weapon, and you get what is it, Hedon Scroll and Metamorphox. And the reason why is just because like if you get those cards in your hand, like you win. Like there's no discussion, there's no nothing to it.
You're saying just
hey,
like
I have
kill
Exodia
it just to get rid of it.
Yeah,
I see. That makes sense.
But the thing is like, you know, Hedon Scroll, Tanba, Metamorphox, those cards are all useful on their own. So ideally, I would have it be like you can run 3 of the 4, right? You can't run all 4, but you can pick and choose the 3 so that you can still have access to cards that are, you know, just useful, right?
Gotcha.
And the same kind of thing with, like I said, I don't know what the Songster loop pieces are, but the same ideology would apply there. I feel like putting limits on Cycloned would also kind of help our vanilla situation as well, because that way they don't like scale so ridiculously.
So you can
out
have
of
like
control.
one Cyclone?
1 or 2, yeah, that was what I was thinking. So that way you're only given like a 10k buff at most to your vanillas.
You don't want people sitting on their 25k vanilla.
Yeah. That's what I hate about the vanilla engine is like it actively makes you choose to make your deck
boring.
Less. Yeah, boring. In order to get crazy payoff. And I that's just kind of sucks. And in that same vein, I also have like Sweeper Acrocanto, the busted Tachikaze grade 2 that gets crazy power. I have him limited to like 1 or 2.
Ooh.
Just because that's the card that should have gotten
take.
hit at the first point, right? Instead of Anger Blader.
Yes.
Oh, I loved that article talking about Sweeper the whole time, but banning Anger Blader.
Yeah. It's so, I feel like limiting him to 2, you still have access to him, but like, because we've been seeing right now in the current format, Anger Blader is topping, right? So if we're knocking off the top, then that just leaves a vacuum for Anger Blader to just fill, right?
It is
so I feel like
the best deck that can kill you before things that say grade 4 on them matter.
Yeah, exactly. So that was 1, 2, and I also thought about limiting Stunverse, the Narukami Stride, because limiting it to 1, because that way it kind of makes you choose, are you going to use this as a setup or are you going to use it as a finisher, right? Because Stunverse just scales wildly, right?
Stunverse is... I would only play 1 anyways, because I think I'd rather use it for setup, because once you have enough bound cards, you can just go into Voltage.
Right, because
Voltage makes board huge.
Yeah, because your opponent's like first stride Stunverse it's solid, but it's not like completely debilitating. But when somebody goes into a second Voltage and they completely wipe your entire board and your hand, that just it just feels bad. And anything that like kind of takes away like any sort of interactivity, I'm not for. And then I also have Arata-ing, Gleipnir, and Kazandi to once per turn. Because I know like there's a lot of hate for Taro, but I feel like Taro can be okay as long as we get rid of the cards that can abuse Taro, right? Because if you only have Gleipnir can like only Soul Blast 1 Taro, then if you want to restand that Gleipnir, you have to use something else that Soul Blasts, which is also probably only going to attack once, and then you get your Taro, you get your multi attacks, but you don't get to do it over and over and over and over and over, right?
I mean, I think anything that Soul Blasts during the battle phase, as long as you keep Taro around, you're going to have to put hard once per turn. Or just
definitely.
one dash turn, yeah.
Because, and I feel like a lot of those things in general kind of just need to be once per turn anyway, because you get these crazy situations we have right now where you can have a Kazandi can like buff your board over and over and over and loop your deck till it's only like Morphesa's and what is it, Geljas, to where you can just sit there and just loop and loop and loop. And yeah, I don't want infinite loops in my game.
Yeah.
Do you have anything for a Blade Master or?
Yeah. So for Blade Master and Valkyrian, I had put down like choice restricting them with stands, or at least a certain amount of stands. Like you can't run like 16 stands in a Valkyrian deck. But I think I forget who it was, but their suggestion of only performing drive checks in the first battle, that's way better, and I like that better.
Yeah.
So, because that's what they did with Blaster Blade for the Alfred Peace Saver, right? Because Alfred Peace Saver let Blaster Blade perform drive checks, but only for his first battle, because you
really
had ways to restand Blaster Blade. They thought ahead in that situation, but not in these, which is good.
I think what's really nice about the only first battle is that it just doesn't affect the Mindy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like in the case of like Holy Peace Saver and the Blaster Blade thing, that's because it gave Blaster Blade twin drive. Versus in the case of something like the Vision Token and Valkyrian, that's just part of the card itself.
Yeah.
And it's just everything around it. So I think how you would have to word that as like a master rule or something is any drive checks on Rearguard Circle or Astral Plane, because you gotta clarify it like that, only work on the first time or something like that.
Yeah.
Like keep restanding your 70k dude, fine. Still big chungus numbers, but no drive checks after the first time. You can't
sit there and do it over and over and over again until your opponent's dead.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, I had cards like Morfessa, Neburos, Dark Lord Princess. Like, I don't know. There's no really elegant way to get these, but I feel like making them so if they were like GB2 or GB3 would be better. So that way they're not just like, oh, you got first stride, so you're just gonna like scale out of control and completely kill your opponent before they get to do anything, right?
You can probably put Dark Lord Princess to 1 and like really fix a lot of the problems, because like it's still a pretty strong first stride, but after that they're gonna have to go directly into their Harry strides as necessary instead of just doing Princess every time.
Mm-hmm. And then I have like a watch list, just watching Ezel, Novas, Dark Irregulars, Neo Nectar, and Aquaforce, just to kind of see what they would do after the ban hammer gets brought down and see what needs to happen. I was really tempted to put Bustard in there just in the sake of being objective, but I feel like Bustard is potentially fine, because if you go into a first stride, if you were to have guarded early during that, and if your opponent didn't get their pieces and you have a perfect guard, like there's a lot of things that can interrupt Bustard. But maybe that's just me trying to hang on to my precious favorite card.
At least he's honest with himself.
Yeah. I try.
Was there anything else to that, or?
No, I think that about wraps it up. That was my exhaustive, or attempt at an exhaustive ban list for premium.
I think he pretty much covered it all. Like everything else, I agree with Zazan to 0.
Yeah.
Hoan to 0, all that stuff. I think if you're gonna get specific, Dark Lord Princess to 1. I think. Hang on, let me look at my Grand Blue again, because I haven't opened the deck box in literally months. There's dust on top of it. I think. I don't know. The Obadiah stride is fine. The ship is fine.
Yeah.
I think their strides are okay. I think it's just the stuff in the main deck that's your problem. So. Yeah, I think just pretty much everything we've covered, for the most part.
Yeah. And I figured that would kind of be the case, right? Because like, it's pretty blatant what is not good in the format right now, and it's no secret to anybody. And if somebody's like, "No, don't do that," it's because they're in denial.
Yeah, I think if we don't want to go with Matt's thing of just ban all stand triggers, I think just limiting every single stand trigger to 1 copy each, so you can still have.
I don't feel like thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It's just something weird. I don't know. That one seems really inelegant.
I mean,
maybe I'm just complaining.
I guess it's like trying to have your cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want, you can just kill all the stand traders. Fine, do whatever. I guess that leaves to the listener. What do you think we should have done, or Bushiroad should do?
Oh no, Coil Magnum.
See, you're saying Battle Centric is like, oh no, Energy Girl, Kachiwal. I like those cards. They did nothing wrong. Fleet Master and Valkyrian are ruining it for all of us.
They had a blue trigger icon.
They did have a blue trigger.
Oh no, kitty. So yeah,
the cat deserves it. Don't even start.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. Definitely. But yeah, so let us know what you thought on Twitter, Instagram at Nexus at Nights. If you want to help, support the show, patreon.com/Nexus at Night. Tyfyghtr, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Where can people find you, follow you, all that good stuff?
Pretty much everywhere at Tyfyghtr. It's TYFYGHTR. That's my weird corrupted spelling of it that makes it so that if you look that up, you will only find me.
I mean,
but yeah,
you think
Twitter,
that's bad?
YouTube,
You ain't
Twitch.
seen nothing yet, son. Look at Matt's.
Right.
What are you?
But yeah, YouTube, Tyfyghtr Vanguard, Twitter, Tyfyghtr, Twitch, Tyfyghtr. I stream most consistently Tuesdays and Saturdays, mostly just talk with the chat, talking about Vanguard. We talk about the anime on Saturdays. We talk about new reveals on Tuesdays, and just whatever else comes up, and it's a really good time. So
I feel like I missed something now. I'm really going to worry about it.
Watch this. Where can they find you guys?
You can find me on Twitter at Wiggums2Gs2Z.
See?
What? I'm still confused.
That's a little more elegant than mine, at least.
It was the first one I came up with, and it's the one I've stuck with.
You can find me at Plasma Eclipse.
And then you can find me at Atlas Novak in the same places. Thanks to our $10 patrons, Darren and Cole. Like we said before, $5 a month, whole ass bonus show every week. We have guests, and sometimes it's mostly just talking about nothing. It's all the stuff that we talk about off mic here. So
Yeah, I was on one of those one time. So
that's true.
You should get on there and check that out.
Yeah. You should come back on there. That was fun.
Yeah, that was a good time. I enjoyed that a lot.
I'm just going to say, if the anime doesn't actually present like some overarching conflict, I'm going to stop watching it.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
I don't
The
want
anime
it to.
just is like random shit happens every week, but there's no like overarching conflict, so I have no stakes.
Oh, I thought you meant like I want supernatural Planet Cray stuff, because I don't want that either.
No. I don't care what the conflict is. I just want some conflict.
Yeah, the anime has been a big a big divide in the fandom right now. Like there's people who love it, and then there's people who are like, I don't.
Like I actually think like the funny like the shenanigans are funny, right?
Yeah.
But I need some other like I need goals of the characters. I need something.
Yeah.
Right.
I think once they start getting into tournaments and stuff, then you start getting like a...
Well, it's a 12 episode anime.
Oh, it's just 12? Jesus.
Well, it's technically 25, right? Because they're doing 12 episodes, and then they're taking a break, and then they're gonna do 13 episodes later in the year.
Oh.
Okay.
It's kind of like a weird sort of seasonal approach.
All right, my bad. So, but
yeah.
it's still...
You're definitely not alone in thinking that, though.
But like, whenever you have a really short series, you need an overarching plot should have been presented in episode 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like once you're done introducing everyone.
Yeah, you introduce the characters, we get a feel for who they are, and then you have like some overarching plot. But we haven't had an overarching plot yet, and that's really annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure I'll complain more about this on Sunday.
Yeah. So until then, I was Atlas.
I'm Matt.
I'm Root Beer.
I'm Tyfyghtr.
And have a good night, everybody.